Hi, folks. We've already talked about the existential situation of the various human characters in The Good Place. What I want you to do now is see if you can come up with an assessment of the series of the show as a whole. Where would you locate the existential theory or position of the show? Is it more Dostoevskian? Is it Kierkegaardian or Sartrean? So pause your videos now and see if you can come up with an answer to this before we go on. Okay, that was your last chance to pause your videos. Let me say, I think the show, even though the characters are all condemned to hell, and we learn throughout the series that even the people who are seemingly good people are actually bad people. Everybody in The Good Place is either a deeply flawed human who's been damned to hell or a demon who has actually been posing as a human who's just there to torture people. So there are seemingly no good people in the entire show. At best, there's just Janet, who is the neutral artificial intelligence. But nonetheless, I think the show is deeply optimistic because the characters, I will argue here, actually get saved. And through their mechanism of getting saved, we're going to learn something about what it means to be an authentic human or what the best way for us to live is. Because remember, Eleanor figures out that they are in the bad place, and she can only do so by an amount of moral growth. She comes to realize something about herself. She stops repressing her understanding of morality. She learns something from Chidi's ethical lessons. That's what gives her the insight. That is the key breakthrough. And what I think this shows is the moral center of the film, and thereby we can understand its conditions of existential success. So this is some of the key moments that lead to this insight. Eleanor is plagued by guilt and the way in which other characters are going to get damned, and things in The Good Place start to unravel. Michael is all frazzled because, there's all of these, Eleanor's crazy dreams and actions lead to these natural disasters happening in The Good Place. She knows it's all her fault. What she doesn't realize is Michael has done this precisely to make her feel guilty for it. And he doesn't anticipate the fact that she is going to confess. She says, you had no idea I was going to do that because I didn't even realize I was going to do that. But what is this moment of confession? Hopefully this made you think. Whenever I think of public confessions, Dostoevsky starts ringing bells in my head. This happens actually at another time in the series too, although we didn't see this in these episodes. She does feel guilt. She is trying to make amends. She's trying to learn from Chidi's philosophical lessons, and she admits to all the other characters living in The Good Place what bad she has done and why she is responsible. And she does say she is truly sorry. Now, there's a complicated fact about this, which is the series displays her actions here as predicated on the fact that she wants to stay in The Good Place, and therefore she doesn't have enough moral motivations. But nonetheless, she later on, I think, does attain this purity of moral motivation. She does deeply regret it and apologize in a true way. So she gets saved in part from these confessions, and because she has connected with the other human characters. She has befriended Jason. Jason is deeply needing help. He is trying to reach out. He's trying to break out of this shell that he's been boxed in because of Tahani and his silent Buddhist monk routine, that he is desperate to talk to Eleanor, and she befriends him, even though he seems like a dunce and she can't stand him in certain ways, and she judges him in certain ways. So she has made human connections to all of the human redeemable figures, and I think this shows her moral growth, and this is what shows that she actually was just suppressing or repressing her morality before. Michael even voices this when he says, "I had no idea how effective Chidi was going to be at teaching you to be good," and this, I think, is what shows the salvation for Chidi as well. He actually did succeed in being the professor of moral philosophy. What he could never do in his actual life, which was finish his dissertation. He has this 3,000-page tome, his unfinished work, because he can never finish anything. But he actually proved himself to be effective at the one task in which he needed to, which was saving the person who he was responsible for, who he felt a deep connection and responsibility toward because of their pairing as soulmates in the Good Place. So Eleanor's connection with Chidi and Chidi's connection with her is key to the salvation of both of them, in my opinion. We see another theme. So you can see I'm sort of building up, and the way in which I put this how do each of the characters get saved. I think this film is completely Dostoevsky, and I'll just come out and say it. Because the conditions of success for each of them, public confession, this is just like The Mysterious Visitor, or making deep friendships. So look at this relationship. You know, Eleanor is completely annoyed with Tahani's supercilious attitude throughout the whole season, but they still have a kind of bond. If you watch some of the episodes in the middle of the season, there's a plant, and the health of the plant becomes symbolic of the health of their relationship. Their friendship and the blooming of their friendship is absolutely essential. This is just like, you know, the blooming of the friendship between Alyosha and Grushenka, or various Dostoevskian characters. And it's exactly expressed with this concept of forgiveness. What could be more Dostoevskian than this? When Eleanor confesses that she really cares about Tahani, that this friendship is really important to her, they have this moment of bonding, and Tahani does truly forgive her. So we have the wonderful little Dostoevskian recipe here. Now, even the character of Jason, who is in some ways is the least developed character of all of them, because we don't see a deep moral side to him, except in this wonderful way in which he connects with Eleanor and he connects with Janet, the non-human. He is able to redeem his humanity in the most ironic way possible by revealing the humanity in a being which isn't even human. And there's ways in which you might be skeptical of this relationship between Janet and Jason. You know, when Jason says, like, I love you, and I think you love me too. And she says things in her robotic voice, like, I'm incapable of love. I don't know what human love is. She sort of disavows her humanity throughout, you know, in these various ways in which she says, like, she can't eat, she can't have sex, even though they attempt in these other episodes to ridiculous results. So there's this deep irony in the fact that Jason redeems himself by, in a way, redeeming and revealing the humanity of Janet, and making her a character who we care about, who is not just a computer or a cyborg or something, but she is a character with feelings, with emotions, with attachments. Even when she's getting rebooted, this relationship lasts, and it is essential to understanding his function in the series. So yeah, this is funny. It's even a surprise to Michael. No, how could they have anticipated the fact that their mainframe computer would have fallen in love with Jason and actually, in a sense, become human? It shows his redeemability, that he is, in a sense, able to pass the onion on and save a character who didn't even need saved, who wasn't even damned in some ways. So I think actually all four characters of the series are saved. And they did it in Dostoevskian fashion. They did it together. You see, Eleanor says, you know, you thought we were all going to torture each other, and we did to some degree, but we also took care of each other. And that kind of mutual acknowledgement of each other, healing each other's souls, is exactly Dostoevsky's recipe for salvation or for authentic living. And they show moral improvement. Even after they're dead, they can still grow as individuals. They can become a team, you know, salvation in the team. This is like Dostoevsky's metaphorical church that we see Alyosha found in the ending of the novel The Brothers Karamazov. So this is another line of Eleanor's. So the only thing you succeeded in doing was bringing us all together. I think the show really shows this is success. The show is an optimistic story. And that's why I think the show is not Sartrean at all. It takes Sartre's premise that the characters, you know, that hell is other people, and actually comes up with the opposite conclusion. And that's why I think the series is thoroughly Dostoevskian. Now, Michael has a rebuttal to Eleanor's, you know, gotcha moment. His epiphany is, oh, that was my mistake. You're right. We need to spread you out and make it a slow burn. We're going to find a better way to torture you. And then, of course, that causes the panic of Eleanor. Like, we've got to come up with a plan. Amusingly, she turns to Tahani. She turns to Chidi. Chidi is still stuck with indecisiveness. So even though he's he's redeemed in some ways. He hasn't, it's still a process. He hasn't fully overcome himself. Well, Eleanor, just like the insightful one, she does come up with a plan, and this is the successful plan. As you'll learn, hopefully now you'll tune in and you'll watch season 2 on Netflix. She does come up with a successful plan. That's what's brilliant about, that's what's so sympathetic and redeemable about her character. And here we see, this is my final argument for my interpretation of the series. When she comes up with the plan, she's thinking, what do I write? What do I write? And she folds up this paper and stuffs it in Janet's mouth, who then returns it to her. What she writes is, find Chidi. So she writes this note to herself, Eleanor, find Chidi. And so what we have is, this is the recipe for success, because this is how they then keep finding salvation in season 2. And notice what the name of the book she writes it in is What We Owe to Each Other. I mean, this is sort of a great joke, because instead of taking like a really cliched bit of philosophy, they had great philosophical counsel from UCLA on this series. This is Tim Scanlon's book, is one of my favorite moral books. That's why I love some of the ethical jokes in this series so much. What We Owe to Each Other is a wonderful choice of a book, but think about what it means. This is so Dostoevskian. Dostoevsky is precisely saying that salvation is figuring out and acknowledging what we owe to each other. We owe acknowledgement and love to each other. And that is precisely, she writes the solution on the piece of paper that reads, the answer is there. This is the most Dostoevskian moment of the whole series, in my opinion, because her recipe, how they can foil the devil and make it so that this hell of being in other people, they're in Sartre's universe of no exit, and yet how they can foil it is finding Dostoevskian acknowledgement through each other. So I think this really shows exactly the true heart of the series. At least this is truly what sums up season 1, in my opinion. And so if I had to place a good place in my little two-dimensional matrix, I'd put it somewhere up here. So it is wildly toward the social end. It is highly Dostoevskian, in my opinion. Now, I couldn't totally decide where to put it on the religious versus natural dimension, because for one thing, it's not deeply Christian in the way Dostoevsky expresses himself. But of course, it's not totally atheistic either. I mean, after all, they're living in the afterlife that's full of demons. So there's some kind of seemingly religious dimension here, even if it's not fully Christian. As Michael says in the series, about all the world religions got like 5% right, except for Doug Forsett, who's the guy who figured out 90% of it. Well, so I'm putting it up here as toward the religious side, in part because it does have this fantastical, metaphorical aspect that Dostoevsky would be proud of. And because, even if it's not Christianity, Doug still figured out 90% of it. So there's something deeply spiritual about what the series is telling us, even if it's not in the exact same words Dostoevsky would have chosen. Okay, thanks.